Everyone praised Daniel for being kind. What no one saw was how that kindness was slowly erasing him. Daniel was the kind of man people felt safe around. Not loud, not demanding, just steady, reliable. The one who listened when others talked and helped without being asked. At work, he was the guy who stayed late so teammates could leave early. In friendships, he was the one who always adjusted his schedule. In family gatherings, he was the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over tension and swallowed discomfort to keep everyone comfortable. And Daniel believed that was a good thing. Growing up in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, Daniel learned early that approval came from being easy. His parents weren't cruel, but they were overwhelmed. His father worked long hours. His mother carried stress like a second skin. When Daniel caused no trouble, when he helped, when he said, "It's fine," things felt calmer. So he became fine with everything. By his mid-30s, Daniel had built a life that looked respectable from the outside. A stable job as a project coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm, a modest apartment, a small circle of friends who called him dependable. No scandals, no enemies. But there was a quiet pattern running underneath his life. Daniel rarely asked himself what he wanted. When coworkers pushed deadlines onto him, he accepted. When friends canceled plans last minute, he shrugged. When his sister borrowed money and forgot to pay it back, he said nothing. Each time it felt small, almost noble. Yet something else was growing alongside his kindness, a constant fatigue he couldn't explain, a tightness in his chest when his phone buzzed, a sense that his time, his energy, his emotional space belonged to everyone except him. At night, Daniel often lay awake replaying conversations. Not arguments, he avoided those, but moments where he wanted to say no and didn't. Moments where he smiled while something inside him quietly folded in on itself. He told himself this was adulthood, responsibility, maturity. But deep down, there was a question he avoided. Why did being kind feel so lonely? The moment came on an ordinary Tuesday. Daniel had just finished a long day at work when his manager, Lisa, stopped by his desk. She smiled the way she always did when she needed something. "Hey Daniel, quick favor," she said. "I know this isn't technically your project, but could you take over the client revisions? Mark's overwhelmed." Daniel looked at the clock. He had plans that evening, dinner with an old friend he hadn't seen in years. He opened his mouth to explain. But then came the familiar pause, the internal calculation, the thought, it's easier to say yes. "Sure," he said. By the time he left the office, it was dark. He texted his friend to reschedule. Again. On the drive home, something snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly, like a thread finally breaking. At a red light, Daniel noticed his hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. His jaw clenched. His chest felt heavy. He whispered to himself, "When does it stop?" That night, Daniel didn't turn on the TV. He sat at his kitchen table, staring at nothing, and allowed a truth he'd been avoiding to surface. His kindness wasn't free. It was costing him time, sleep, relationships, self-respect. And worse, it wasn't even being noticed anymore. People didn't thank him, they expected him. His kindness had quietly turned into an unspoken obligation. A week later, something unexpected happened. During a team meeting, Lisa asked if anyone could take on another task. The room was silent. Daniel felt the familiar pull, that invisible hand nudging him forward. But instead of raising his hand, he felt his heart race. And he said, calmly, "I can't take that on right now." The room didn't explode. No one yelled. Lisa blinked, nodded, and moved on. Daniel sat there stunned. Nothing terrible happened, but inside him, something shifted. No once doesn't change a lifetime pattern. The real consequences came slowly. At work, Daniel noticed subtle changes. Some coworkers stopped asking him for favors. Others seemed distant, less warm. He overheard a comment once. Daniel's changed. It stung more than he expected. In his personal life, things were messier. When Daniel declined to lend money to his sister again, she grew cold. "You used to be more understanding," she said. That sentence stayed with him. Used to be. Daniel began to see the uncomfortable truth. Some relationships were built entirely on his compliance. When he stopped overgiving, there was nothing else holding them together. The loneliness intensified before it eased. There were evenings when Daniel questioned himself. Was he becoming selfish? Was he overreacting? He missed the easy validation that came from being needed. But something else emerged too, a quiet clarity. He had more time, more energy. His thoughts felt less scattered. He started exercising again, reading before bed, cooking meals instead of grabbing whatever was fast. Most importantly, he started paying attention to his internal signals, the subtle discomfort that used to be ignored, the moments where his body said enough, even when his mouth used to say yes. Not everyone adjusted, but a few people did. One coworker began asking instead of assuming. One friend apologized for always leaning on him. These moments felt small, but real. Daniel realized that true connection didn't disappear when he set boundaries. Only convenience did. Daniel's story isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about understanding that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-abandonment. Being kind does not mean being endlessly available. It does not mean absorbing other people's stress. It does not mean sacrificing your well-being to avoid discomfort. Real kindness includes honesty, including toward yourself. Daniel learned that people may resist your boundaries, not because they're wrong, but because they benefited from you having none. And that's the hidden cost of being too kind. You teach others that your needs come last. But when you quietly reclaim your time, your energy, your voice, something powerful happens. You stop living as a resource and start living as a human being. So here's the question worth sitting with. In your own life, where has kindness crossed the line into silence? And what would change if you gently chose yourself? Just once.